a chance. I think we want the bridge to be in as best condition as possible.
Absolutely, I have no problem with it. But is the same company that inspected it, or is that who this is?
That's Shimmer, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would you like an independent inspection is what you're saying, right?
Well, I don't know that a second opinion is not a bad idea before I approve it. I myself, don't know about bridges. I helped build them for 3 years, but I just kind of question the need for this. As far as the drainage goes, it runs down onto a whole bunch of abutment rock that, for what little surface water there would ever be, it sounds kind of like a stretch to me. So I myself would support a second opinion. It may cost us, but maybe the second opinion would be worse. But I'm just not convinced it needs to be fixed. I agree with you, we don't want it to get into a state of disrepair before, if there was pitting or discolored steel. I'm sorry.
Where are the bearing
Construction.
devices?
Well, they're feet, and then underneath them, I'm assuming, are these plastic, just, it's more of a cushion.
So it's the plastic pieces that need replaced?
I'm guessing.
Yeah, if you want,
Probably.
if we want, if you guys are ever free, call me and I can take you out there and show you exactly what was pointed out.
I wouldn't mind seeing it myself. I wouldn't mind seeing it.
Otherwise, what I don't have in here either is his initial report that he put together after he was up here that day and inspected it and took photos and all that stuff. You could see it through that thing, or we can go look at it.
Can I ask you a question? Would there be any harm in postponing this for 2 weeks? Give me time to go out and look with you. I'd gladly do that, and possibly he could come up and explain a little bit more detail. I'm not, I don't know these people, but I just look at this and I go, the traffic is flowing, there's no visible, but I realize the damage was underneath, but I would like to postpone this vote myself. And like I say, I'm not trying to make waves, I just don't know that I wanna spend 120 grand without knowing what it is I'm spending it on.
Jason, what would another inspection by a different entity, what would that run? What would this one run?
Oh, boy. I don't know if I remember what.
Jacob, do you know?
I don't, sorry.
Well, let's hold on that for a little bit, but if you guys would humor me here, I am gonna motion that we table this for 2 weeks. We'll put it back on our agenda in 2 weeks to revisit it, once maybe we can get a representative from this company up here, and possibly, Jason, you and I could take some time, anybody else wanted to, obviously. I'd kinda like to go look at what we're looking at. So my motion, I am making a motion to postpone this for 2 weeks.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to table action item D2 for 2 weeks until further information can be gained. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, aye. Motion carried. Thank you. Action item D3, Bolton and Menk Incorporated Services Agreement for the Wastewater Disinfection and Forcemain Cleaning Amendment. Attached is amendment number 1 to an agreement with Bolton and Menk Incorporated to provide design phase services for a disinfection process at the wastewater treatment facility. The original agreement was approved February 1st, 2022 for pre-design services. Bacteria disinfection is an aspect of our treatment process and it needs to be addressed with the issuance of our latest DPDES permit. The deadline to comply with was November 2021. The IDNR may begin issuing notice of violations beginning in March when testing resumes. The city's option was an ultraviolet process or a chloride option. The decision was made to go with the ultraviolet process since the city's wastewater already has a chloride issue. The recommendation from the administration is to the council to approve of amendment number 1. The financial impact, the original agreement was for $40,000. With this amendment, the total for the agreement increases to $250,000. It is anticipated an additional amendment will be needed for the construction phase. The total estimated project cost is $3,800,000 with completion by May 2023.
All right, so Greg Sint is on the.
Greg Sint is with us on the phone from Bolton and Menk. Greg, do you have anything for us?
That's correct, I'm on the phone. The project involves a little more than just the UV disinfection. There's a small aeration basin to comply with dissolved oxygen discharge limits. There's a new outfall sewer to the river with a larger capacity. There's a part of this building is a storage area or storage building for screenings container for holding the screenings from the headworks of the plant. And there's a dump station for the street sweeper solids. Currently, there's not a contained area for them to dump these street sweepings that's included in this project.
Street sweeping solids, are they by and large leaves? Doug, you can
It'll
step
be
up.
grit,
I'm sorry, Greg?
grit and sand mostly, I would say.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a street sweeper dump, it's more of the back truck when we have to suck out a lift station or a pit or a hotel.
Oh.
Yeah, the stuff, yeah.
Okay, so it's not Perry's leaves,
No,
leaves,
no,
okay, that's
no,
what I'm
yeah.
thinking.
No,
Okay. Greg and Doug, is a diffuser, since we're going to put a new dump into the river, redo that, are we putting in a fuser or a diffuser or a, whatever, what do we call those things? So, across the river, so.
It's a conventional outfall because we found there was not much advantage to having a diffuser on our discharge limits. DNR issued the discharge limits for the new design flows about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and due to the low flow of the river, there's not much difference between a conventional edge of bank discharge and an outfall diffuser, which would distribute the discharge across the river.
What would the cost
And,
difference,
yeah,
what would the cost difference
we-
be between the two?
I don't have that information, but there's, with an outfall diffuser, there's maintenance to this diffuser with a changing river bed, and there's a requirement for performance testing this diffuser periodically. And there's very little advantage to, there's very small difference in discharge permit limits between the two diffuser options, which city elected for the conventional outfall because of the maintenance issue, cost issue, and very little difference in discharge limits.
Okay, I mean, as long as we can rest assured that the DNR won't change the rules in 2 years, 4 years, 8 years, 6 years. I mean, I'm guessing that as of right now, that's the case, but I'm just asking a question here. If we're gonna do it, let's do it right. Because we got a whole bunch of stuff on our radar, so. If you're saying it's not
Yeah.
needed, Greg, or it's a lot of expense unnecessary, and Doug, you're concurring with that, I'm gonna go with it, because you guys are the guys who are gonna make that decision. But I just wanna spend our money.
Yeah, I don't know, it's the biggest thing, probably a maintenance issue with the diffuser.
yeah, I'm kind of afraid when the flood comes, tree hits it, rips it out, and now we're in trouble. Greg, and maybe you can answer this, could we add that at a later date if it needed to be, that diffuser?
Yes, it can be added later, and that's what's been done in some of these situations where there is a significant difference in discharge limits that they have been added later. But I don't know of a situation where a diffuser has been added with this very small difference in discharge limits. You wouldn't add it, you wouldn't put it in. As Jason said, it's not worth the maintenance and headache of operating it.
Actually, your comment was a question, wasn't it, Jason? Or was it a statement?
The maintenance part of it,
Yeah.
I think that was mentioned, because I think we had talked about it before. I don't know if it was-
Okay.
Yeah, whether or not it gets, is it susceptible to being plugged and, because it's at the bottom of the river.
Yeah, I mean, we lost that Forcemain a few years back in a flood coming from Parkview, and that was buried underneath the river. We lost that. This diffuser would sit right on the bed of the river, so
Okay.
it's susceptible for damage.
These are questions, I'm gonna take you guys' word for it, so that's not a problem. I know it's been talked about in the past multiple
Yeah,
times.
it just didn't make as much of a difference as we had hoped.
Totally fine.
Yeah, that discussion happened quite often when we were kind of questioning how the DNR figured some of our limits.
Absolutely.
That low, whatever it's called, low flow
Absolutely.
numbers.
So we're convinced then that the UV is gonna satisfy our disinfection issues, correct? And it will pacify the issues that have been brought to us to this point.
For the E. coli, yeah. We actually sent a sample to Trojan, who makes this UV disinfection. They're gonna run a test to be sure before anything happens.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
So we started out at $40,000 with the initial agreement, then it made quite a jump with this additional stuff to $250,000. And it hints at another one coming. And is there any sense of what ballpark that next one could turn out to be?
Greg?
The additional
So
amendment?
it started out, Mike, the 40,000, how it started out. That was for preliminary comparisons between different processes, UV as being one of them. The other one was chloride, I believe, is the other option to do it.
Chlorine, yeah.
Chlorine. And then it also includes the pigging of the Forcemain, the existing Forcemain that we have, so the
Yeah.
cleaning out of that, that was included in the 40. Okay,
That's 100,000.
yeah.
So really the 40, and I know this is gonna sound screwy, but the 40 is 140. Am I right, Jason? Because that's the cost of the pig.
Yeah, so the 40 was the Bolton and Menk fee,
Yes,
yeah. The 100, the cost of actually pigging it
it's being paid for.
is to a contractor.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this, I mean, it's very similar. I mean, so this, the 210, which is now the total of 250, is the fee to Bolton and Menk to
Design.
create the plan now. And then, yes, there is another step. Once the plans are created and it's we're going forward with it in bidding, there is the construction process, where it's Bolton and Menk's oversight of that construction process. That comes with a fee also.
Probably not a factor of 5 yet again.
Unless Greg, you might do it for free, right? Did you mention that at one point?
Pro bono?
No. Oh, I think he hung up.
Funny how quiet he got.
That's a bad connection, guys, I can't hear you.
Yeah.
Would you have a ballpark figure though on what the next amendment might be for you guys?
Well, it kind of depends on what kind of contractor we get, how much involved it would be, but I would expect to be in the 100 to 150,000 range.
For the construction?
No, for the consultant.
For the
Yes.
whole
Yeah, his,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think we can
Any other questions? Then I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve an agreement for professional services, wastewater disinfection for the Forcemain cleaning, amendment number 1 with Bolton and Menk, with a not to exceed fee of $210,000.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Yes.
We have a motion and we have a second to approve an agreement for professional services wastewater disinfection and Forcemain cleaning amendment number 1 with Bolton and Menk, not to exceed a fee of $210,000. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried.
Thanks, Greg. Now, I don't know if we mentioned it, the construction of this is happening at our municipal, our
Original
old-
east
yeah,
plant.
The old site.
East plant.
Thank you, Greg, for your input today.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
You bet.
Bye.
So I did mention it, but I'll say it. This, I didn't include it in here, but Greg did provide a schedule for which all this stuff would take place.
You did not include it with our pack.
No, I didn't put it
Thank you.
in there, but we're looking at a July 21 of 22 to bid it. So it's a pretty quick turnaround with a final completion May 11th of 2023. So just to give you an idea of how long it would take.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to discussion. Jason, do you have anything else for us today?
Well, yes. PD Phase 2. Kevin could probably give an update too, but it is on schedule. Still within budget. Hopefully, you see it every day, Kevin. Are you happy with it so far?
I'll be more happy when they get rid of the dust,
No?
which should be in a couple of days. But they should be painting the walls, so it's moving along, probably about a week ahead of schedule.
And within budget.
Yeah, so far.
Special start at budget time next.
Second thing, I don't know if this was ever brought up in any meeting, but the Hy-Vee project, you've maybe heard anyway, but that is pushed back. They're hoping for next spring, maybe a small chance of footings or something yet this year. I didn't know if that had gotten brought up anywhere. You see on the front page of your packet, spring cleanup days have been set. So Saturday, May 14th, and then the following week of May 16th and 20th. A couple of updates on some projects. Central Avenue, the PCC overlay. We approved that contract a few meetings ago, and I'm sure you remember it came in above. I had submitted the application to possibly get additional funding for that. That didn't get approved. From the TAC committee, it did go to policy board, and you did make any changes, I'm assuming. The bid stands, the amount that the city will have to pay stands. So we move on. And in fact, actually, that project has a pre-construction meeting of April 14th. And Harris plans on starting shortly after that. We did, the way that project was set up, it was specified in the bid documents that that stretch of Central Avenue be done in 2 stages. In anticipation of them possibly not getting done before ice cream days, because there are a couple blocks of that are a parade route. So that's how it was bid. But Harris has since said that they plan on having the whole thing done before ice cream days. So hopefully that doesn't disrupt any of that.
Some extra dump trucks in the parade.
Yeah, yeah. And a paving machine.
Still throw any candy.
It won't have cracks to go down.
Yeah. Let's see, the other application for funding was the PED bridge, pedestrian bridge. Let me find that.
On the golf course.
Yep, on the far east end of the golf course along the railroad tracks there. They did approve that, at least a portion of it. There was 2 applications, the city of Ottawa for a trail and the city of Lamar's for the pedestrian bridge replacement. They chose to fund Ottawa fully, but which left additional money left in the kitty. So they applied what was left, and that was $287,600. They applied to our bridge replacement, and I'll just state it as a placeholder also. So they encouraged us to apply next year for the rest of it. So what I'll ask for next year is about $332,000. So we'll get up to that 80% of that estimate, $775. Hopefully 80% of it will come from that source. What also came out of that meeting was the existing project we already had slated, the K-49 or 7th Avenue Southeast project that would run from 18th Street south to our south corporate limits. That was initially a 2024 funding. That project is actually twofold because the county is also doing the rest of it to C-38. But the county's money was in 2023, the city's money was in 2024. So what this group did was move